So quick question. When you hear the word static, what do you usually think of? Usually when people are referring to static, they're thinking of something that's not changing, something that is not moving. And in the context of computer programming, this concept still remains, but it is a concept of computer memory. Static controls how objects are stored in memory. And when you apply the word static to it, you can automatically infer that it is going to store the memory in one place. But why would we do that? Let's take a look at our old friend, Mr. Console Write Line. Mr. Console Write Line can be used everywhere in our programs. And the best part of all is we don't have to use the new keyword to create it, because the console.writeLine is created in one place in memory at compile time. If that confuses you, just let me explain. When you create an object using the old-fashioned new, you use the new keyword, you are creating a brand new instance of an object every single time. And if I were to use the new keyword to new up 3 different objects, it is going to place 3 different objects on the heap. But this whole entire concept is thrown right out the window with the static keyword, because believe it or not, the static keyword allows memory to be placed on what's called a high frequency heap, which is a totally different place in memory. And notice, each time that I use the console write line, it is going to use the exact same place in memory, hence why we call it static. But this is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's some things that you need to know in order to use the static keyword without getting a bunch of errors. So let's go ahead, let's hop into VS Code, and let's practice. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to create a new class, and I'm going to call this savings account. And this could be anything. You don't have to call it a savings account if you want to. It's just a random example. And remember, you can declare the static keyword at the class level. And this is more likely what you're going to do in a real life scenario. But the great thing about learning things at the member level is that you get a lot more in-depth knowledge about how static works. So what we'll do is we'll go down here, and at the member level, we'll declare a current interest rate. And just thinking of the word static, you usually think of something that's just staying still. And a lot of the times when you use the static keyword, it's going to initialize things that are not going to change. And in our case, we have a current interest rate of 4%. And let's just say hypothetically, this current interest rate is never supposed to change. And that is the ideal scenario of when you will have a static keyword used at the member level. Another important concept to understand is when you're using a constructor. So we'll just say constructor, I'll get rid of the public, and I'm just going to declare this static, and I'm not going to declare any parameters. Let's just say I want to initialize this 0.4 at the initialization. Remember that because it's being declared in a different place in memory, you also have to make the constructor static as well too. So I'm going to go into here, and instead of declaring it within the actual field, I'm going to declare it within the constructor. And that is the appropriate way if you are to initialize values within a constructor. But also remember that we can declare methods as static as well too. So I'm going to go into here, I'm going to say public static void, and I'll say add the bond rate. And this is more or less just an example so that we can learn how the memory works. But we'll go up here, and what we're going to do is we're going to have another field, and we're not going to make this static. And this is important because you'll see in depth how the memory works when you declare the static keyword. So we'll go into here, we'll have current interest rate, and I'll have the bond rate. So I'll say bond rate. And for some reason, it's going to not give me IntelliSense here. And I'm going to try to declare this 0.1. We'll just say we'll add 0.1 to it. What you're going to get is this weird error. And this is because it's trying to store the bond rate in a different place in memory. And remember, this is static. This is a whole entire different place. So if you're going to mix these, you're probably going to have a lot of trouble. So if you have any non-static members, just remember that if you're going to try to perform operations on them, you're going to want them to be static. But this is very educational, and this is great, but let's talk about where you're going to see static keywords the most, which is when you're going to create utility methods. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the left here, and I'm going to declare a new C# class, and I'm going to call it time utility. And all this time utility is going to do is provide us with neat little methods so that we don't have to type out the date time every single time. Notice 90% of the time you're going to be using static at the class level, and when you declare something at the static level, everything else inside of it also has to be static. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to declare a method. This is going to be very simple, so we can just use a arrow function. So I'll go print not name, we're going to print the time arrow function, and within here we're going to make it so that we don't have to type out this console.write line every single time. And I'm going to here call this date time. We want the date time now, and we can also print to short date string. And I'm going to actually I want to short time, so we'll go short time string. Go into here. Also, we got to make sure that we execute this because that's actually a function. And now we have this handy little print time. So what we're going to go over here and do is first we're going to try to declare the savings account. And watch this. When you declare the savings account, you don't really get much. Like, we declared all those members in there, but we don't get anything at the class level, which is the whole entire reason that we use static most of the time. Here's the beauty of static classes. When we want to utilize our time utility, all that we have to do is go into here, just pull we don't have to utilize any new, and we can quickly just go into here and do our print time. And that is the whole entire beauty of these static classes and having them as utility methods, is instead of having to new them up each time like we would have had to do with the savings account, we can quickly just tack on the print time to the actual instance keyword, and we can just print the time all over the place like we want to, and we don't have to use the new keyword. And of course, let's go ahead down here, make sure that we're actually printing our time. So I'm going to say .NET watch run, and when we run it, let's see what happens. And we get all of our beautiful times displayed, and it's 12:12. I think I'm about to call it a day. Hope that you guys enjoyed this. If you did, make sure to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and as always, thank you for watching.